Hi, Max. Please introduce yourself. Where are
Yeah,
you
can you
calling
hear me?
from? Yeah, we can hear you, brother. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from India. I belong to a Hindu family. I'm basically an atheist, and I have no stakes in this Israel and Palestine war. But but the thing is, I have a question which I never could get an answer for. Okay, I don't know the history of Hamas and Israel and Palestine. What did Israel do that is justified? Uh, that justifies killing 1,400 people on 7th October. What did Israel
Okay.
do?
Got the
Yeah,
question, Max. We will
yeah.
go one
And
step
I,
at a
I don't
time.
come here with any hate for
No,
any
we got
party.
you.
I
Of
don't. Yeah.
course. Yeah, of course. We got the question. Hold on for that food for thought. And hopefully the question will be put to Brother Mustafa now, if Brother Mustafa doesn't mind. What basically provoked this particular attack on the 7th of October? What did Israel do prior for them to do that attack? A very interesting question. Max, was that roughly the question? Yes?
Yes, yes. I want to know what justifies killing of 1,400 people.
Okay, thank you.
So, absolutely nothing justifies the killing of any innocent individual in any way, shape, or form. However, we've got to look at the historical context in which this Palestine Israel issue has been going through history. You see, you've had a people subjugated and oppressed for going on 3/4 of a century, or even longer than that, to be honest. They've been the source of brutality unheard of in contemporary history. And hence, they have been crying out for public help for a very, very long time. They've been begging people to help them. No one has been able to help them. It's a total apartheid system there. People in Gaza, in particular, where these events have been taking place, is commonly referred to as an open air prison, the most concentrated open air prison on the planet, where people are deprived of basic human rights. They are absolutely shattered to the extent that even apartheid at its peak in South Africa was never as vociferous or never as discriminatory against such people as you will see in the Palestine issue. So we know, for example, how the British played such a fundamental role, just like your country in India. They played a fundamental role in dividing the country up post partition in 1947, 1948. So the same thing they did in the Middle East as well, where, if you are familiar with the Balfour Declaration going back to 1917, where in support of getting the Arab support in Palestine, in particular, against the Ottoman Empire, they promised the Arabs that they would of Palestine that they would have their country back, being given independence. But they never had no intention of doing so at all. They wanted to divide Palestine up between France and Britain, going back in 1917. So they allowed then slowly so Jewish people to come in post the First World War and the Second World War as well. And this in turn made the situation in the Middle East as to what it happened. We know the deadly events that occurred, how Jewish mafia organizations and terrorist organizations infiltrated even the British, and they committed atrocities against the Palestinians by doing mass land grab from them. They use so much methodology in which to crush. So I'm giving you a historical account, Max. So if you can just please, Paul, if you can just put yourself on mute so that you understand where this is all coming from. So this has been going on now for several decades, in which Muslims and Palestinians in particular have been suffering terribly at the hands of the brutal occupation that they have suffered from. Now, that land that we are making mention to, historically belonging to the Palestinians, and where this event occurred on October the 7th, as I made mention, nobody will condone or nobody will say that the loss of human life would be deemed to be acceptable in any way, shape, or form. However, there are much evidences to suggest, firstly, that in some capacity, that this is also an inside job known as the Hannibal effect, caused by the Israelis themselves in order to perpetuate a invasion of Gaza, which by most accounts now has been shown to have considerable amount of gas reserves, which will be a tremendous source of economic boom should Palestinians or the Gazans have that opportunity to use those gas resources as well. So the events that occurred actually over the cross-border interaction was that there's a continuous going back and forth between the Muslim organizations and the Israeli military. So on this occasion, there was an Israeli attempt to infiltrate Hamas, and Hamas then responded back by throwing certain or hitting back with certain missiles. And they were based upon these camps that were in on the Gaza border, which separates Gaza from Israel. Now, the army which came forth, the Israeli army which came forth, they were the ones who got in the crossfire of this. But in no way, shape, or form did Hamas, in my understanding, have any attempt to kill innocents. In fact, in their charter, it states that you cannot harm the public, you cannot harm women, you cannot harm the elderly, you cannot harm children in any way, shape, or form. But the Israeli governments would have put these people in those environments, in military camps, which separate the two, knowing that once they hit back at our military excursions, that innocent people will die. So this is a common theme. It's called the Hannibal effect, which I've made mention, is to do away with your own for a particular purpose. So these
I
are
have
the
a question.
so I'm just because I need to because you don't seem to know much about the history, as you made mention. So this is what is the reality of the background. The people who, my friend, who have been subjugated for nearly 1 century, 3/4 of a century, who have been living in the most atrocious conditions. They want their freedom. According to international law, resisting occupation is not a offense. It is not a crime. It is not. In fact, it advocates that you have a right to defend yourself. But because they are a helpless people, in view of the brutal Israeli war machine, which is, as we've seen in the television imagery, pummeling Gaza into oblivion, these are the very people who are suffering. And we're seeing this happen. Go ahead now, Max.
Yeah, so my first question is on 7th
No,
October.
Max. What Mustafa just told you right now, did that sink in? Can you repeat what Mustafa mentioned?
So, yeah, sure. Basically, they were being kept, the Palestine people were kept in an open prison. They were oppressed for centuries. And you told me about 7th October. And by the way, I don't like uh I don't like if anyone gets oppressed. It doesn't matter if they whatever religion they are in. I don't like people getting oppressed. So I'm with you on this side, right? Maybe Israel actually oppressed you for years. I wouldn't appreciate that from Israel. My question is, did on 7th October, did Israel instigate Palestine and then Palestine killed 1,400 people, or was it planned? Was it planned to attack Israel on 7th October, or did Israel instigate on that specific day? Like what happened that day?
I've already responded to that. I've given you a detailed response in terms of what happened. But just for your own peace of mind, to give that specific answer, because I gave you a historical account of the setup. But essentially speaking, Israel has military camps on the border with Gaza, you see. So they frequently intrude into Gazan territory, and they have back and forth with various Muslim organizations, such as Hamas, as an example, who are defending their borders. So when Hamas then responds to those incursions and to the killings that take place by Israelis on a day-to-day basis, which is not reported in Gaza and in West Bank as well, so Hamas retort. So in that sense, they then put their own people in these military camps, these civilians and so forth, and they then get caught in the crossfire. But it's not that Hamas is targeting these individuals. Rather, they're trying to hit back at those Israeli forces which are doing incursions into their land. And they make it clear on their charter. So you've got to understand, according to their charter, they make it clear that we cannot harm any people who are innocent, women, elderly. We cannot harm anyone. It's only combatants that we seek to address.
Okay,
So
I completely understand.
Yeah, so the figure has actually been revised to 1,200 now. It was previously understood to be 1,400, but it's in fact 1,200. Now, the hostages which were taken by Hamas, apparently, the media reports are very, very clear. that they were treated with utter respect, with honor, and I'm sure you've seen that within the media as well. How elderly women who were treated with well looked after, young children were well looked after. It wasn't this image that they were stuck in some basement floor and starved and beaten or whatever. That did not happen. So it doesn't make any sense that they would seek to kill innocent people and take hostages and treat those hostages very well. It's not consistent. Then there was that accusation of the beheading of babies, which everybody knows is nonsense. The media came out with all this initial understanding, which later became very, very clear. That's what is something concocted all up. You're aware of this, aren't you, Max? Even if you're in India.
Yes. I've even heard Piers Morgan, the interviewer in UK, said that Hamas was actually live streaming the beheading of people. Is it true? I didn't see those videos. Is it true?
That's exactly. See, that was the accusation that he made, but that was all proven to be nonsense. These were just images taken from another clip involving some other historical event, but nothing to do with the Palestinian issue at all in any way, shape, or form. This has all been negated. The beheading of the babies, everybody knows that's been negated. But the Zionist-run press machine wanted to propel that. But once they were rejected upon this understanding, then they had to come out and openly declare that this was just something that the Zionist machine just made up to make it appear that they were dealing with monsters at hand. So,
Okay, I understand. So I understand that those videos were of some other event, and the media is trying to show that Hamas is doing it, right? So I understand that. So I have one more question that is very important. Okay, and I'm asking from an outside perspective. I have zero stakes in this war. Okay, my question is, if Hamas was like on the border fighting with people, and Israel is now bombing hospitals, which is very wrong. I don't support that. My question is, why is Hamas hiding below the hospitals? Like they are the border control. They are on the border. They should fight like men. Why are they hiding behind hospitals and schools? Yeah. Yeah.
Max. I'll be honest with you. If I served in the military myself for the British Army. I'm here in the UK. If one side of the military have only got AK-47s and maybe rocket launchers, right, homemade rocket launchers, and the other side have got air force, they've got tanks, they've got sea crafts or battleships, artillery. They've got mortars. They've got everything. Is that a fair fight, Max? Is that a fair fight?
No, it's not a fair fight.
And we know for a fact the embargo that's been put on Gaza, that nothing is really allowed to go inside that particular location when it comes to military weapons. They've got no air force. They've got no army. Basically, Brother Mustafa, I do apologize for jumping in. But if it was a fair fight, Max, and of course Israel is being funded by America, Germany, European countries, the UK. Millions and billions of pounds are being sent of military hardware for Israel. Is Hamas getting the same? Are they getting the same weaponry? No, they're not. It's not a fair
Not
fight
really.
at all. This is literally like Amir Khan, which is a famous boxer. I don't know if you heard of Amir Khan, fighting somebody like Anthony Joshua. Is a completely different fight. Completely different fight. Is unfair. So Max, come on, common sense really.
No, but
Really
I understand. So if I was Hamas and I knew that it's unfair fight and I'll lose, I'll surrender. I'll actually surrender rather than risking my people in hospital.
Really, Max.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
I don't know what you're saying.
No. Wait. Let me complete my point. My point is, if I have a disadvantage, I wouldn't hide under a hospital, because if I'm hiding under a hospital, I'm risking the life of the people who are in hospital. I am basically risking it.
Just one
So
moment,
I'd rather surrender.
Can you hold on? Pause. Max, the whole issue here, you see, is that they haven't been hiding under hospitals. They've had certain other places where they've hidden underground tunnels, but not under the hospitals, because this is an excuse for Israel to deconstruct and to blow up the infrastructure of the Gazans, the hospitals, the very lifeline to which they can be treated, is to do away with this. There were videos as well. I mean, we can't bring up every video as evidence, but there are videos which are very much available on YouTube and on, even being fair, even on the national media, which show that these accusations that that Hamas is hiding under hospital tunnels has been proven to be nonsense. Absolute complete nonsense, which has just been made up in order to authenticate their brutal bombing of their opponents. So essentially, what we need to observe, Max, is we need a conclusion. The two-state solution formula, which has been espoused even by European governments, has been rejected out of hand by Benjamin Netanyahu, to the extent that it seems to have been causing a division amongst his allies, meaning Biden and Sunak and other Western leaders. So we need to come to a solution that Palestinians, that is their land which has been stolen. Would you be happy if people come from, just say, for example, from China and took northern India away from you? Will you?
No, I wouldn't be happy.
Would you accept it? Wouldn't you
No.
stand up and fight against the Chinese in this
Yeah,
case?
I would retaliate. I would retaliate.
Precisely, my friend. So you've got to consider all this in historical view. We need to know what the British. I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the British machinations in during the time that they lost their empire. They caused all this havoc in Kashmir, in where you are, particularly in India. The tragedy of the Kashmiri people, where the majority are Muslims. Yet, as a result of the division, the partition, they remained with India, and we know the brutality that has been taking place. UN resolution, 2 UN reports from the 90s about the massacre of Kashmiris, going back now nearly 35, 40 years, since 1989, in the brutality that has been taking place over there as well. So these are unfortunate events that have been taking place around the world, and an occupier cannot occupy another person. It's against international law. It's against UN resolution 242 and 338, which specifically says to Israel to get out of the West Bank and Gaza. But they don't do it because they've got American support. So this is the issue, my friend, that we really need to we need to get to the bottom of why this is happening. Now, suppose there are two independent states, one Palestine, one Israel, whatever they want to name themselves. Now, they're leading their own lives. They've got their own governments. Whoever then starts an issue post-agreement will be the perpetrator, you see. So that is the way to see who are the real people, who are the oppressors. So just say we have a state of Palestine.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I had these questions, but I never had someone who can answer this. So I really appreciate you answering my questions. And secondly, I really don't want anyone to win or lose. I just want this war to end. Basically, I actually am not against Palestine or Israel. Like, I'm not even against Israel and Russia, Ukraine and Russia. I just don't like wars. And
Yeah.
I'm happy, I appreciate that you were able to answer my questions. I really appreciate this. And thanks for letting me in.
No, you're
Sure.
absolutely very
Max,
welcome. Thank you.
Max, I've got your email. Thank you for leaving your email. We can hopefully arrange a discussion. We have a brother in South Africa right now, Yusuf Ismail. He's actually has been requesting to talk to somebody regarding this topic. So if you would be interested in having a discussion with Yusuf, we can definitely arrange it. And I got your email address, and we can set something up in the future.
Sure. Which country are you in right now? Like, so that I can know what time. Just
we're
send
in
me
the UK.
email me the time and date, and I'll be there.
Yeah, we're in the UK. Both of us, me and Mustafa, are in
All
the
right.
UK. Okay, thanks for
Perfect.
coming on, Max. Take care.
Yeah, take care, you guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Take care. So that was an interesting conversation. So Max had some preconceived notions, which has always been propelled by the media in general. But he's been able to get some answers, and he's been satisfied with those answers. So in the end of the day, there has to be a solution to these issues, you